Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and today we have a very special show for you. We've got the hero of YBOP, Gary Wilson. Say hello, Gary.
Hello, Gary.
Gary's here. And we've got the usual crew. We've got Charlie.
What's going on?
And we have got Jack.
Hello.
And so I guess to start with Gary's written a new book. I'm sure many of you have seen on YBR and YBOP, the banner. So should we talk about that? I don't know. Gary, fire away. I mean, it's a book about the sort of basically a summary of all the things on YBOP. What else?
That's exactly what it is. We call it an executive summary of what's on YBOP because we know that YBOP is pretty big, even though you have your basic start here articles that tell you what to do, which is just quit porn. You know, that's about all you need to do. But it really condenses everything. Ooh, what was that? It condenses everything and summarizes everything. And we didn't really know that people would want a book. And we were contacted by an editor and publisher in the UK, and he said, could you please write one? So we did, and it looks like it's a good idea from the feedback that people are finding it valuable.
Awesome. Yeah. I just finished it, and I guess I had a little bit about the questions about like the pre-writing, how you got in touch with the publisher, what they said, and were you in contact with like numerous publishers throughout this process?
No, we've never contacted anyone. We didn't want to do it. They come after us. So, and there's been a few others that want us to write a longer book. So we'll see if that happens or not. I don't know. But he just contacted us out of the blue and said, could you make a 30,000 word ebook that's basically a summary, a condensed summary of what you have on your brain on porn? I think it ended up being 45 or 50,000 words. But it turned out it's about what he wanted.
Okay. And how were you in touch with Professor Anthony Jack? Is that his name? The guy who wrote the foreword in the book.
Yeah, well, that's even a mystery to us because that was through our publisher and editor. I don't know. Maybe he, before he even contacted us, we suspect that he asked the professor, what do you think about this stuff? And the professor really liked it. And that's, I think, where it came from. It's a little bit of a mystery.
Interesting. He definitely had some really good words to say on it. I was very impressed with the foreword.
Oh, likewise. It was when he talked especially about the communities and the forums that have banded together to escape the addiction, and how beautiful really it is to see people who've turned a solitary activity into a genuinely social and altruistic activity. I thought it was great.
That's his place of study is cognitive research, but also looking at positive psychology and connection between people and why people do positive things. So, that's where he comes from.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, and, pornography addiction and the whole porn-induced CD thing is definitely probably something extremely interesting for him and cutting edge, so I can see why he would write the foreword.
Yeah, it was surprising to him because he then recognized how it could separate people and create dissociation, and that's what interested him.
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely potential to separate people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, Jack, did you want to ask any questions right off the bat? I have a few, too, but you can go ahead.
Sure. I mean, first of all, I loved the book, and to anybody listening, go buy this book because I feel like there's a lot of confusion. I mean, so many of the posts of people who are trying to unhook they're wondering, does this count as porn? Am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it right? And the book is so clear and so well written. Thank you so much. One question that I have on my mind now is there is a point in the book where you discuss addiction rates for various substances and for nicotine. Do you think is it even possible for us to reach a point where we know the rate at which internet pornography is addictive?
Well, I think it's possible, absolutely, because now, they've done 200-300 different internet addiction studies, and they've come up with some rates, but it's really hard. You do make a good point. It's hard to come up with a test, an accurate test that shows addiction for something like the internet, because the rates, they vary from 3% in one country to up to 50%. And of course, it varies quite a bit from the population, and the internet addiction test really doesn't get at it. So I think it's going to be challenging. I think they'll start coming up with percentages down the line. It's going to be a while, though. But the question is, will they be accurate? And I don't know if they're ever going to get at accurate percentages. And what they're not going to get at is accurate percentages of effects, because addiction is the end result. But we know that a lot of you younger guys are affected by porn without being truly addicted.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Is addiction and addiction-related brain changes, are they uniform enough that if you were to stick a person in an MRI, would you be able to tell that they had an addiction just by looking at their brain and their brain activity?
No, and that's one of the talking points that the sexologists will use. Well, you can't tell someone's addicted to porn by looking at their brain. Well, you can't diagnose depression or schizophrenia or any mental disorder by looking at the brain for one MRI, which is magnetic resonance image. The thing is, when you study addictions in humans, each time you do a brain scan study, it can only measure one thing, like dopamine transporters or the structure of the amygdala or communication between the frontal cortex and your reward center. So each one of those costs about $3,000 or $4,000, and yet you can look at about 60 to 100 different structural and chemical changes in the brain that are associated with addiction, but that would cost you $500,000 to look at an individual person. And still, you wouldn't see what's going on at the genetic cellular level so easily. You can only do that really in rats when you kill them and look at their brain. So we don't have the technology yet to look at these really deep cellular changes. So no, the technology is not there yet.
Mm-hmm. I have kind of a similar question on that. We all know that probably part of pornography addiction is hypofrontality and that sort of thing, which is a similar thing with all other addictions. But there probably are some very unique features to pornography addiction. Do you know how, or maybe in what ways that could be studied in the future? Or are people doing that right now?
Well, I don't know of anyone that's doing it right now, other than we got Cambridge, and Cambridge is going to continue to put out 2 or 3 more studies. And then we had the German study, which you guys talked about a few shows ago, that looked at porn users and correlated the loss of gray matter in the reward circuit to the years and hours of porn use. So that was interesting. But when you talk about uniqueness in terms of porn effects, I point towards the ancient hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus sits right underneath the reward circuit, and it controls most of your hormones, your autonomic nervous system. It does everything but wash your windows. And I think there's some changes that occur there, because in a study where they looked at psychogenic ED, they looked at the brains and they found significant loss of nerve connections in the hypothalamus in guys who supposedly had psychological ED, but really it was physical, because they had physical changes in the brain. So I suspect something goes on in the hypothalamus. And what's the hypothalamus about? Well, it's where a lot of male behavior comes from, and it controls erections. It has your erection center. So I think some changes occur there.
Yeah, interesting. Do you think it's also? Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, I just you said male behavior. What?
Yeah.
What's that?
That's when males go chasing women, or when males have erections, or when males are aggressive. So you can just stick a little electrode down there and turn on just a few cells, and you can have males attack each other, males get erections, males go humping everything in sight.
Wow.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
What? That's mental.
Right?
So,
Neuroscience. Ooh,
yeah.
crazy.
So I think some
Whoa.
changes are going on with porn that don't happen with other addictions. How else could you explain months or years of chronic ED in young guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say the flatline too. I mean,
The flatline.
yeah.
Yeah. The flatline. Jesus.
Flatline. Because that, I mean, how
Something that I'm not having a problem with anymore.
Yeah,
Sorry,
well, I
wait.
mean, having an orgasm and then all of a sudden going into a flat line.
Yeah.
I don't see. Something else is going on, clearly.
Interesting. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see what's going on in the future. These sort of unique aspects of pornography addiction and what they affect.
Yeah, that's going to be down the road, though, I suspect.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
These
I've been
gears
having the
turn
opposite
slowly.
problem recently.
What's that?
Like instead of having a flatline after an orgasm, I just get even hornier.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's called normal.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome back to the normal.
Yeah.
I know, but it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like
Yeah, we call that the chaser effect. We've written articles about it, and that's a normal response where you get hornier after having an orgasm. I suspect evolutionarily that makes sense. It's like you found someone to impregnate. It's like, come on, do it again. Let's put all our sperm in her.
Yeah. Yeah.
gotta make sure.
Yeah. So I guess that means pretty much healed.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, dude.
Cheers, bro.
And how long have you been at this, Dan?
Oh, me? Since last summer. No, yeah. I started in last August.
So you just had your birthday.
I had my 1-year birthday.
In a way.
My 1-year anniversary. My
Wow.
1-year patriotic anniversary.
Isn't it crazy how much longer it's taking younger men to recover? I just find that it's almost like, if you started before 15 or around 15 and you use pretty regularly, it's like a year recovery is not it's probably like estimated now, right? I mean, it's like...
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people they took on this challenge with kind of these numbers, like 90 days floating around, and they thought, oh, it'll be easy. Mm-hmm. 90 days later, and I'll be a different dude. What we didn't realize was the depth that these hooks were in us, and the amount of work and time that it was going to take.
Yeah. I remember when I was starting, too. I remember because there was a lot of those older guys, 35-year-old, 40-year-old guys who were on high-speed porn for like 3 or 4 years at the time, and it was like 8 to 12 weeks. And I remember I started, I was like, oh, yeah, 8 to 12 weeks? No problem. I'll be right back on my feet.
Right?
Yeah, and that's, that was 3.5 years ago when I put YBOP up, and then I created my original ED and porn video, just whipped it out in a few days. And I just replaced it last night, mainly because of the fact that things changed so rapidly as we started to see all you young guys show up.
Yeah. How is this one different? Because I know you released a series of adolescent videos on YouTube. Is this one different than that in a particular way?
Yeah, I have one adolescent one. It's pretty similar to it in terms of how it's structured. It points to more studies. It points to clearer physiology, focusing in on sexual conditioning as the primary cause, along with desensitization. So it's really completely different. It also ends talking about the flat line, about the suggestions. So it's completely different and up to date.
Nice.
Interesting.
I'm going to have to check those out.
Yeah, I've seen all of them. I really liked all those.
I had another question for you, Gary. When I was reading the book, you have a section where you address edging, and I actually learned a lot reading this section because you say that edging is particularly bad for our listeners. because right before orgasm, at the edge, so to speak, before orgasm, that's where our dopamine levels are as high as they can naturally go, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting on the edge for an extended period of time, you're taking a bath in just super elevated dopamine for as long as you can stay there. Pretty much, it's havoc on your brain. I was curious. You said that's as high as your dopamine can naturally go. Does that imply that you can artificially take it even higher?
Well, of course, drugs can take it higher, but certainly cocaine can take it up. I think it's about 500% higher.
Whoa.
Damn.
So what happens is sexual stimulation or orgasm will take you to about the 200% level of baseline, cocaine about 400%, and meth about 1100%.
What?
Good Lord.
Oh.
Yeah, so meth can be pretty bad. But here's the thing about edging I think people don't understand. It's not so much that your dopamine is high for a long time. It's high in relationship to a particular stimulus. And that stimulus is a screen, it's being a voyeur, it's watching, it's clicking. So dopamine is about brain training and consolidating behaviors. So you're training your brain to need that stimulus, which is watching videos or a particular fetish or just clicking, in order to be sexually aroused. So if you are having sex and staying high on the edge and having sex for several hours, that's not damaging. You're training your brain to a single person. So it's about brain training that goes along with the high dopamine.
Interesting. So you say sexual conditioning is a part of it, and I guess, is that conditioning towards like novelty and excitement and thrill? Because I think about a lot of people. So some people aren't able to get erection with a partner, but they're able to get it with porn. But then other people have gone so far they're not able to get an erection with either. And it feels like they're not conditioned for either. Are they conditioned for the novelty and the thrill and the excitement, or is that something different?
Yeah, so they're definitely conditioned for the novelty, but what you have is you have two things going on, and this is what my new video is about. It talks all about this. Is with the young guys, you have sexual conditioning, and they need this particular stimulus in order to get aroused. But you can take it so far that you have desensitization. As most of you know, you looked at the old videos, and it talks about the loss of dopamine receptors, or dopamine goes low. That's desensitization. But also in these new studies on porn users, they saw a loss of gray matter, which means you lose the nerve connections, the dopamine nerve connections. So you lost both the receptors and the dopamine. And it can get so bad, is my theory, that nothing gives you erection because you've lost so much of the dopamine producing nerve cells.
Wow.
At the same time, I think once you get to that level, you've affected the deeper male sexual centers in the hypothalamus.
No.
Scary stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the only explanation, is for something where for a young man not to be able to get an erection to anything at age 24, something seriously has gone on in the brain.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Absolutely.
That's essentially where I was at the end of it. I couldn't even get an erection to the porn. And I went to the doctor, got checked out, all the tests, and I had higher than normal testosterone and stuff like that. So it was, and then I did your test too to figure out if it was porn or. The funny thing about your test is what's exactly the test that you say you should do to figure out if it's porn-induced or anxiety?
Yep, that's in my new video too. And so what you do is you masturbate to porn, or just recall how it was. Then you masturbate without anything but sensation. And if you can get an erection to porn and you can't get erection without porn, that pretty much eliminates performance anxiety, because you don't have performance anxiety with your own hand.
Yeah.
So that eliminates that. But in your case, it doesn't work because you couldn't get an erection to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a performance anxiety test.
Well, the interesting thing is when I tried that test about 2 years ago, I I was trying it without porn, and I couldn't get it up. It was like 20 minutes, and then I started fantasizing about my favorite porn clip.
Right.
And I was eventually able to get it up just enough to bring myself to orgasm, and that was like my big thing. I was like, well, okay, well, I definitely have porn-induced DD at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I get emails all the time, or guys arguing with me, and they're in their 20s, and they're saying, that test is crazy because every guy should have to fantasize about porn or something to get an erection. And when I tell guys my age that, around age 60, they just look at me like I'm talking gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
In your 20s, a wind, a stiff breeze should give you an erection. It's like guys forgot how it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that wild? It's crazy.
It is to us.
So I guess that's like actually like kind of what we were talking about last time a bit, because we were saying, how do you know when you're recovered kind of thing? And I guess you know when you're recovered when you get erections randomly, just sort of like that, because if you're in your 20s, for example, so
completely recovered.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I don't get erections from a stiff breeze. Definitely, I mean, I get erections when I'm with a woman,
Yeah.
And I can get them from touch occasionally, but I don't necessarily indulge in that too much. But I guess that's kind of the way it is. You're ready to go the whole time when you're in your 20s. That's kind of how it should be.
Well, I don't know if you're ready to go all the time, but it should be ready to go when you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So I guess I have another question, and this is a big question that people kind of send me in messages and stuff like that, or I respond a lot, but people are really curious as to, so for a lot of the hardcore rebooters, I know Gabe was kind of like this too, they find that they need to, a lot of times, avoid orgasms, even with a partner, to see the best results. Do you have any theories on that? I mean, I have a few myself, but I think that's kind of an interesting thing, and people kind of want to hear why, because my experience is definitely true too.
Yeah, that's the most confounding thing there is, that you would have to give up orgasms at all to recover from porn-induced DD. So I'm going back to, I would go back to the hypothalamus and think that somehow it has been affected in ways that it needs a rest. Because the hypothalamus isn't really about getting excited. It takes all of its instructions from the reward circuit. And the reward circuit is saying, okay, time to get excited. I need an erection here, buddy. But the hypothalamus, maybe something has changed there, where if you have an orgasm, it causes some type of response where you can't get an erection for a while. It really is confusing. What are your theories there?
Well, I always thought that I don't know as much neuroscience, and I don't study up on it as much, but it feels like I've linked, orgasms with pornography in my brain for so long, so many times, that even when I'm with a partner and even when I feel in the moment, maybe it re-triggers some of the things that I've done in my brain just a little bit, enough to make it harder to get erections for a month or so, or not a month anymore, but 7 days, 14 days afterwards. So, and that's what I tell people, but it's not really rooted in science at all.
Well, here's something that a study came out last month, brand new study. It's by the group that does a lot of looking at what goes on in the brain during sex. And they found that the dopamine-producing nerve cells, when you have an orgasm, they actually shrink a little bit. And you go, well, so what? Big deal. What occurs is the same thing occurs when you inject the rat with heroin. The exact same thing in the exact same nerve cells. So something's going on where during sex where your dopamine-producing nerve cells actually shrink, and they think that may make you crave more dopamine-producing activities. And of course, if you're an animal, you can't go down to the bar and drink. Your choice is to screw. So you want to screw more.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's the theory. So it's fascinating that the same effect, injecting an animal with heroin, caused these dopamine-producing nerve cells to shrink for up to 3 weeks to 4 weeks.
That is
and then
really
they bounce back.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm just speechless after 3 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks.
3 to
Yeah.
4 weeks after one
Yeah, and
orgasm, or if a lab guy
yeah.
injects you with heroin.
Yeah, both
Wow.
exact same things occur. Now, obviously, they're not the same thing, but you got to remember that drugs don't do anything new. That's a concept people don't understand. Drugs don't do anything new to the body. They simply hijack what already naturally occurs.
Yeah. Interesting.
So to answer your question, I don't know why orgasm sets guys back. It's one of the great mysteries. But of course, as you guys know, it's one of the most controversial discussions that you can have.
Yeah, definitely. It seems pretty polarizing because some people have.
Yeah. There's those two camps at all time.
Yeah.
In the forums. There's people who are just like no orgasms, and people who, like I said, two camps.
Well, it's interesting because every reboot is different too. I've read one of my favorite rebooting stories is by a guy named Barney Barn, and he says he couldn't imagine completely rebooting without having regular orgasms with his partner. So
yeah, I kind of almost feel the same in a way because because for me it was definitely. I mean, at the beginning I used to kind of get de-energized from an orgasm, but then the more I kind of did it, and then I felt like I was rewiring my brain, and then the more I did it, the more kind of natural it starts to feel like orgasming with a partner. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it really helped. It really helped because then I realized how like comparatively crap it is to have an orgasm by yourself.
Yeah.
Like
it's hard to say it like hurts in the long run. I think for some of us it might make erections difficult in the immediate.
Yeah.
But I never am like, oh my God, you really screwed up. You just had an orgasm with your girlfriend, because I think it actually does help in the long run. But there's this whole like, would it have been even more beneficial if he waited another 3 weeks and was just intimate? I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I would love people to get off of those two camps because I think both are obviously needed. It's clear that especially young guys need a timeout, but the timeout doesn't have to be a long string of a year in a row. And they need absolutely rewiring and sometimes orgasms to jumpstart their libido. So when people start to get into this black and white thinking of either or, they're missing the point. The point is that you have to find a balance. Often you'll need a stretch, but that doesn't mean that if you stretch it longer and longer, you're going to get more benefit. If you go to the gym and work out hard, that's good, but if you spend the next 20 hours working out, is that better? So you've got to really look at your own response, and you've got to monitor it, and you've got to change and adapt as you go through your reboot.
That's amazing advice.
And that's amazing advice. And that presumably applies to all, everything in a reboot, not just orgasms, but everything. So, how much you masturbate, if you masturbate or not masturbate, I guess that everything is kind of covered in that statement, really, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And you've got to find the sweet spot for yourself, and it will change. What you can do at 15 is different from what you'll do at 55. What you'll do 1 month.
Uh-oh, Gary.
We
lost Gary.
Oh no. How will the show go on? I'm going to add him right now. Maybe it's not.
In the meantime, we'll play some music.
Did you guys see that comment from that guy who wants you guys to sing stuff?
Yeah.
Awesome. I was going to write the song. I'm going to do it next week.
Okay.
I've been so busy.
Yeah.
I was cracking up reading that.
That was so funny.
That was so funny. I was like, what? He's awesome, though. He's been following us from the beginning. All right. Where is Gary Wilson?
I just came back, I think.
Okay.
Hey-o.
I have emerged.
So you were saying you can't do the same things when you're 15 as when you're 55, something like that.
Yeah, and you've got to. Well, you can't do the same things really when you're 1 month into a reboot as you are 9 months into it. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to observe how orgasm affects you, and you've got to look, as Charlie said, at the long run, long run recovery. the guys are monitoring, oh, I just had an orgasm and I just had this effect, so that means that I should never have an orgasm again. And it's, that's not the way to look at it, because you're going to heal, you're going to change, and you need to adjust.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also like the other kind of black and white thinking is one of them is found in when people sort of think I must never relapse, and if I relapse, that's that's it. I mean, that's still obviously part of the recovery process. You're not doing it every single day, twice a day. So that's also a big thing, isn't it? That you kind of, it's very easy to think black and white about that and think I relapsed, therefore it's all over, and I've just ruined my brain. I may as well binge.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think the day counter kind of approach contributes to that,
awful.
where someone says like, "Hey, I'm a day 45 man," and then he relapses like, "I'm a day 0 man. What a loser I must be." But like, I mean, think about it. If you were to go back to a gym analogy, let's say that you're trying to get fit and you go to the gym for 45 days pretty consistently, and then on day 45 you eat an entire cake. Does that mean that you lost everything that you got in the gym? No, it just means if you keep eating cake, you're going to keep losing your benefits. But it's like training a muscle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're training your brain. So you spent the last 45 days not training your brain to porn, and you can't, of course you could erase that, but you have lots of benefits. That's so important, is to look at, looking at this addiction in terms of black and white and having a day counter and thinking that your progress equals a number on a day counter. Your brain doesn't know that. It doesn't count days. It just changes. So you've got to look at the accumulated days of not doing porn, and the accumulated days of doing positive things for yourself is really what counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's too bad that there isn't some sort of variation on the counter that exists, where it's like the days clean counter.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I feel like that would be super beneficial.
Right? And then the days clean would always be stacking up. If you have a relapse, well, then you just don't get that one more day on your days clean pile.
It's definitely a more positive way to count your
recovery. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Underdog.
Get into it.
Get on it, man.
Yeah.
Come on, we're waiting.
All right, so there's a question in the YBR thread here that I thought was pretty interesting by Unstable. I'm going to ask this to everybody and see what you guys think. But Unstable asks, how really big is this epidemic, do you think? Do you suspect other porn addicts in your daily life, such as friends, family members, and other people around you? I can say one thing. Yesterday I was at work, and I was telling a coworker of mine that I was interested in studying pornography addiction, and I'm going to grad school for it. And she said, "Oh, my ex-boyfriend just recently admitted to me that he was a high-speed pornography addict." And I was just like, whoa, what? And we didn't get to talk much because she was just leaving, but I thought that was pretty interesting. I think there's always more than you think there are.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I was in school, I was about 13, and I remember one guy said to me, he said, "Oh yeah, do you know what's really good? It's when you watch porn and you're on the edge of orgasm, and then you don't do it, so you basically, and then you don't come for like ages." And I'm like, "Really? Like, how long do you do it for?" It's like, "Oh, I do it for like half an hour to an hour," and I'm like, "Shit!" So I know that guy for a fact is a pornography addict.
Porn addict.
Yeah, I mean, like anymore, I suspect that porn addiction is extremely widespread, epidemic level widespread. I mean, perhaps I'm overestimating, but anymore, when I see any guy younger than me, I kind of automatically assume that he's an addict. He might not know it, but but I assume that.
Well, I think kind of similar to you, but a little different. I don't know how many pornography addicts there are, but I feel like the effects of pornography, because like Gary said earlier, you can be affected by pornography but not be addicted. I just of how prevalent porn is, I think there are a ton of people who are affected by it in some way or another. I had a roommate who wasn't addicted to pornography, and he gave it up 2 years ago, and he says it was the biggest contributing reason why his life became more positive in those 2 years. And he wasn't even addicted. So
I've really changed my views since I put YBOP up, and I really get that porn is affecting this generation. A poll came out last week asking different age groups several questions about their porn use. 33% of males 18 to 30 felt that they may be addicted to porn. So that's 33% that think they're addicted to porn.
Wow.
Now, we know that most guys don't think they're addicted to porn. So that's pretty big. And here's something shocking. About last month, a study came out, the first one ever done really on 16 to 21-year-olds. And what did they find? 54% of males 16 to 21 had sexual problems. 27% had ED, 24% had problems with orgasm, and 10% had low desire. That's unbelievable.
Wow.
Epidemic levels.
Wow.
How does that even happen? And you remember Dr. Foresta from my TED Talk?
Yeah.
Well, I found a lecture by him just a few months ago, and he's doing studies. He hasn't published them yet, and he's been surveying high school seniors for the last 8 years, and he's seen a doubling of sexual dysfunction in 18-year-olds over the last 8 years. And as far as sexual desire goes, it was a little over 1% low sexual desire in 2005. But now high school seniors, 10% of them have low sexual desire. That's a 600% increase in 8 years.
What?
And it should be noted, 8 years, that is how long we've had high-speed internet, correct?
That's the tube sites, baby, since 2006.
Right.
Wow.
8 years.
Christ.
So,
God.
So something's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that happens in tandem with a ton of other stuff that just came out. Those articles that were about sexual desire in Japan, how young men in Japan or people in Japan in general are just not really interested in having sex anymore because of, I would assume because of artificial sexual stimuluses, but...
the survey was 2010. 36% of guys 16 to 19 had no interest in sex. And what's interesting is that figure doubled from 2008. So that's doubling in 2 years.
Wow.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean...
Christ.
High-speed internet, perhaps.
I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
Something's going on. And we know that Japan is really porn-friendly and always has been.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Very technologically savvy. Yeah, the sex robots.
Although it is all like blurred out, isn't it, in Japan?
I don't know. The sex
That's
robot?
why they have to have tentacle porn, because they can't show orifices.
Yeah, they're not allowed to show orifices.
Oh my god, I did not know that.
What a creative solution.
There you go.
Just throw an octopus in the scene. My god.
You're a genius, man.
Yeah.
God,
yeah, whenever they say that porn, internet porn just allows you to find your true nature, you just have to point to octopus porn.
Yeah,
well, maybe some people deep down, they're really an octopus.
Yeah.
I've been sexually...
Gary, I find that quite offensive. I love my octopi.
Yeah. I've been sexually attracted to octopuses.
Nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's perfectly normal, guys,
That's why I love sushi.
Love eating it, fucking it, everything. Everything about it.
Everything about it.
All right, so here's another question by Unstable.
Moving on.
Moving on. You guys are gross.
Hey, man, it's society, man.
So Unstable has another question here. He's basically it's his first question. He's basically asking if a PMO addiction can manifest itself physically, because we know there's physical brain changes, but we've heard like colloquial reports about guys' eyesight improving, their acne improving, and stuff like that. I guess Gary, we can start with you and then the rest of you guys. But do you feel like PMO PMO addiction over an extended period of time can manifest itself physically?
Well, I'm the one who puts up all these stories, and there's many stories I don't put up, and you see over and over again, like one yesterday is the guy's hair was growing back. They all mentioned that their muscles are getting bigger, and of course their voice is getting deeper. So they tend to blame testosterone, but I don't think that's true at all. But here's the thing, I don't know. I mean, is it because of less stress? Is it because they're happier? Do those changes manifest? Because, your brain and your feelings and your thoughts affect your body. And where do they affect their body? It's actually through, again, the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is where the mind meets the body, where it manifests, where the emotions and thoughts actually manifest through the hypothalamus controlling pretty much the entire endocrine system and the autonomic nervous system. So I don't know. I don't know if excessive PMO, if an addiction affects the hypothalamus and alters hormones that we can't measure. I just don't know, guys. I just don't.
Interesting. Yeah. What about you guys? What do you think about stuff like that? Have you noticed anything like that?
Well, the thing, I mean, my voice, there's one physiological change. My voice is definitely deeper. Mm-hmm. It's stronger. It's a little more forceful. But I don't think that has. I think that has a little more to do with a lack of anxiety and a little more confidence. Mm-hmm. I mean, before when I was just masturbating without any, in total ignorance, when I was addicted and I didn't know and I didn't care, I was so anxious that I was mostly trying to go through life not being noticed. Yeah. And so, I would mumble if I spoke at all. And now so much of that anxiety is gone that I find myself actually talking to be heard. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it's a physiological thing so much as a psychological thing, but it is a difference.
Yeah. It happened in tandem with you trying to give up porn, and that's all that really matters.
Exactly.
Whether it was physical or you just found something new in yourself. Yeah.
Right. It is a change, and it did happen when I quit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've noticed one thing actually that just recently, because I did this really intensive course. It was like 63 hours a week. It was an English teaching course, and it was a month course. And I basically work out a lot, right? And I love it. And what I found was that whereas when I was addicted to porn, I would have lost a lot of muscle during that period of not being able to train. Actually, during the period I was doing this course, and I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't doing any of the things I normally do to kind of, to train. I didn't lose much at all. I barely lost anything, in fact. It's really strange. Mm-hmm. So it's something I really definitely noticed, a definite change in that. I'm not sure if it's because of porn addiction and not having that anymore, or whether it's, I don't know, anything else, like denser muscle fibers or whatever. It could be anything, but that's something I've noticed physiologically since I've kind of recovered.
Yeah, I'll just chime in with that. I feel like I have also noticed a deepening in my voice. I definitely speak with more confidence, and for whatever reason, it feels on a lower register. I think maybe it's just because I'm less anxious.
Yeah, do you feel it in your chest?
Yeah, it's deeper down, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely notice when I speak, I feel it like resonating in my chest, which I didn't used to feel.
Yeah. PMO, I mean, for whether it's physical or not, it just puts you under a lot of anxiety. During it, you're fiending. Throughout the day, you're thinking about something and you're waiting for something like that. I mean, theoretically, it is possible. I mean, I feel like it's possible. I don't know if it's probable, but possible that this can cause physical stuff.
Yeah, when you think about a deeper voice, you can make your voice go higher and lower just right now. And it's the muscles that are around the voice box that raise it or lower it that actually deepen it. So if you can think about the muscles in the front of your neck, if they relax, your whole voice box will drop and you'll have a deeper voice. So that is associated, again, like was mentioned, with anxiety. And here's another thing, that German study that correlated the loss of gray matter in the reward circuit with porn use. That area where you lost gray matter is associated with motivation to do anything. So, if it can cause that effect in one study that looked at that region, then it could cause the other effects. Definitely stuff like brain fog, anxiety, decreasing, more confidence, more motivation. We see that all the time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, when I was in the height of my PMO, I would days off, I would sleep in till noon or above without question. And now I wake up every day before 10 o'clock. So you just have more energy. At least that's the way I feel.
And more motivation, most definitely.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's what, for me, that's what kind of pushed me into a place where I was receptive to quitting. Was I had no motivation for so long that it's you guys can probably sympathize when you know that you should be doing things, and you know that there are things that you could do, but you just like, nah. It's easier to sit around.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a fucking miracle any of us passed college, the three of us. I mean,
right? Oh, Jesus it was Christ, a struggle, man.
Yeah, it was a struggle.
Just to get motivated enough to
didn't.
Yeah, definitely.
So what else does Unstable have for us in that mailbag?
Well, he has a lot, actually. Let's see. Some of them, the benefits are so important. Let's see. Try to find a good one. Oh, this is a really good question. I like this. When do you guys see this message becoming mainstream? How long will it talk? Or how long will it take? Sorry. And he's wondering if the porn lobby is just too strong now.
The porn lobby.
Yeah.
You mean human sexuality?
I think he's talking about like
I don't know that there are people whose job it is to like, hey, we got to keep everybody watching porn.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a job that does itself.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of sort of like people who are in the porn industry who have a vested interest and think that it's and obviously want it to keep going.
Yeah.
I suppose so, but like cigarettes don't need to advertise, do they?
I mean,
yeah, but they used to.
They used to.
Like,
don't.
Yeah, they used to. But the thing is, like, cigarette sales have gone down massively. I don't know the figures, but they're like, they've gone down hugely since the government started cracking down on them.
I think I don't know. I mean, maybe there are porn lobbyists per se, but I think the people are all about sort of these people that would be pro pornography are mainly people who are concerned about censorship, I would think. But
yeah,
I'm not positive.
Well, we're concerned about a lot more than that. So I don't know about any porn industry lobby, but what I do know about is Marnia, my wife, she's been a member of Sexology Listserv, which has some of the top academic sexologists on it, and for the last 7 years. And she's been trying to tell your stories and provide information to these academics, PhDs, some of the top researchers, and really get them to study porn-induced DD, morphing sexual taste, etc. And their responses, and here's literally what one of them said, this would be like studying unicorns. This cannot exist. So it's not only that they don't believe.
You don't exist.
They actually push back against it. So there are some that are out there who are quoted that push back and spin things against the possibility that porn can cause problems. And then there's a smaller group of researchers who are actively trying to put out crap research that suggests that porn can cause no problem. So there are those. I'll go ahead and say that.
What are the motivation for a lot of these people? Are they just so upstream with their old work that they're fighting to stay relevant? Or do you think there's some sort of other thing going on here, I guess? I don't know what else, but...
Yeah, well, that first thing is if you've been saying something as an expert for years.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Somebody stopped using their headphones.
Hello?
Sorry, my internet.
Oh, there we go. It's all better.
Troubles in the UK. There's anarchy in the UK.
I literally felt like I was going insane for a second.
Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Let's see, where was it? Oh, yeah. So if you're a researcher and you've been saying one thing and backing it with your entire words for a very long time, it's hard to go against it. So that's one motivation. The second motivation is they really don't want to see porn addiction or sex addiction recognized because they believe that it would be, how should I say, it would put down men, it would put down their sexuality, it might affect diversity. So they're afraid that if you label certain behaviors as perhaps addiction-like, it may put certain groups in a bad light. So it might put people who practice BDSM in a bad light, or it might put, guys who want to visit a gay bathhouse every night in a bad light. But that's really the wrong view. The view isn't certain behaviors. The view should be effects,
Right.
such as ED, morphing sexual taste, lack of motivation. So that's part of their motivation too, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah. Huh. All right. So he has another. He has another question that's really good. How do you deal with raising children in this era, kind of with high-speed pornography and stuff like that? Jack, how would you do it if you had a son and he was like 8?
Little Jack Maximus Jack Prime Jr. Yes. I'm not a particularly religious man, so I could never come at him from a religious kind of shame angle. I think the approach, the neurological approach favored by Gary and laid out quite elegantly in his book that's the approach that I would take. I would say, okay, little Jack, here's the way it is. There are stimuli in this world. There are things that are so exciting and so captivating that they have the power to capture you and draw you in. And if you expose yourself to these stimuli for long enough, it can change your brain. And it can change your brain to make you the kind of guy who doesn't want to do anything with your life, or the kind of guy who can't do anything with your life, or the kind of guy who has non-functioning junk. And I would dumb this down into little Jack language, but
Dad,
this is just kind
junk?
of a rough sketch. Yeah, Dad, what's junk? And I'd say, hey, guy, I can't believe we have to have this conversation again. But no, I feel like the best way to go about it is to go from this scientific angle and this sort of objective angle where there's evidence that porn is such a strong stimulus. Sex is pretty much the biggest natural reward that our brain recognizes. And so I would tell him, you're 10 years old, little Jack. You're probably trying to find porn already. But you should know that porn as it exists now is so bottomless novel. There's so much bottomless novelty that it'll ruin your life. If you let it, it'll suck you in and it will never spit you out. And it'll turn you into a weak-willed husk of a human being. And I don't want that for you, little Jack. So I'm just letting you know right now that porn is exciting and it's endless and it's available and it's free, but it's addictive.
I think that's well said.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would ask the young man, what sport is he training for? And if he wants to train to become a tennis player, he doesn't spend all of his training time shooting baskets. So if you want to go out in the real world and have fun interactions with the opposite sex, sitting in front of a computer screen, clicking from video to video, doesn't prepare you well.
Exactly.
That's actually that's something that I would definitely include is if you're looking for porn, it's probably because you're interested in girls. Well, guess what? Porn is the easy way out, and if you stick with it long enough, you're not going to be able to get close to those girls.
Oh God, because a lot of us are gonna have that conversation with our kids. A lot of the people listening to the show and us on the show, so that's gonna be awkward.
I don't know.
Well,
It's awkward if you make it awkward.
I have a 24-year-old son who, when he was 11 years old, some 13-year-old kid got him on, that was back in dial-up, and they racked up a $500 bill at a neighbor's house, and that was his first porn. And of course, his mom and I said, hey, this isn't real, but I had no idea how bad it was. But as I got into, I taught him about the reward center and drugs early on, and I taught him in terms of food and how, it can just overwhelm the reward center and you can want more and more, you can become obese. So he understood that the reward center is very sensitive, and with supernormal stimulation, you can overwhelm it and end up in a bad place. So that's where I started it all.
Interesting. Yeah,
and
that's a good place to start.
And he applied it later on to porn, so that he didn't end up getting addicted.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's really
well
good.
done.
Well, we're closing in on an hour, so I think maybe if we want to wrap it up and do last thoughts, it'd be a good time. Unless you guys.
What a show! Thank you, Gary, for joining us today, and thank you for your book. And like I said, anybody listening, go buy that book because it will help. It's the single best resource available to you.
Absolutely. It's succinct, 180 pages.
And you're gonna learn a lot. I've been doing this. I've been trying to quit for 2 years, but in reading this book, I learned a lot, and it's helping me even now.
If you read the book thoroughly, there's nothing else you need to know. I mean, that's what I'll say about it. It's just that complete.
Well, I still think they should go ahead and look at the new video I put out for Porn-Induced ED. And I want to add one thing. Our proceeds from the book go to fund research into porn's effects.
Awesome.
A good cause. It's going to a good cause.
Yes, sir.
And is there anywhere that people can donate if they want to, or if they feel like it? Is there any platform for that?
No, we've never accepted advertisement or donations, and we've been offered a lot of it. So we just stay away from making money in this realm.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
So if you want to donate, buy the book. It's like donation, except you get something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that was a really good show. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
That was awesome. Thank you.
You bet, guys. It was fun hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Hopefully we'll be in touch more, and I'm going to put the show up later today. So.
Cool.
Well, hopefully I didn't co-opt too much of your airtime.
No.
No. We need. Are you kidding? We co-opted your airtime, man.
Yeah, it was a good interview. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get something out of it. So.
Well, good. Well, I hope you guys continue with this because it's the highlight of our week, of course. And and I think everyone really benefits from it. Just having you guys sitting around talking about the issues or getting someone on. It's very listenable. It's fun to listen to, and I have a whole page on YBOP just for your guys' shows, and of course I put it on the front page as soon as it comes out.
Awesome.
Aww.
That's amazing. Thanks, Gary.
Cheers, Gary.
Thanks for everything you do, by the way. It's crazy how much you do for this.
Like I think I speak for everyone when I say that the extent to which we're grateful to you, Gary, it's just it can't be put into words, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be sitting here without that TED Talk. So a personal thank you.
Yes, I was your actual father. We finally meet.
No, that's impossible.
Yes, Luke. I'm your father.
I have a shrine in my new apartment, and it has your face on the wall. It's very weird.
That's pretty scary.
That is very good. And on that note.
All
right, show's over. So
turn off the lights. We're shutting it down.
All right. I guess we're gonna sign out. So everybody say goodbye, and I'll turn this off.
Okay. Bye, guys.
See you, everybody.
Bye, ladies and gentlemen.
Adios.